Good morning friends, welcome to Agile Digest once again. Today we'll talk about or we'll take a little deep dive into Jira software. Last time we talked about how to install your Jira and getting a familiarity with the different menu options within Jira, and then we'll talk about the filters or the bulk update to set up all your data. Now once we are done, let's talk about these topics that we'll be covering. Issue detail view, time logging and tracking, marking impediments, watchers and commenting threads and mentoring, activity log, issue linking, dependencies and blocker, how we can do that, and explore issues in a detailed screen. Apart from that, we will also be covering these areas at the last. Let me just talk with you. How we can do a story point estimation and moving stories to from sprint, multiple sprints. If you are having multiple sprints, how we can run them. Then a task breakdown or assigning and estimations of task, how we can do that. Priority and ranking, and how we can set up the priority and rank within your backlog, how we can monitor your burn down chart and user profile. So first thing what we'll be doing is we'll be talking about our first point, that is issue detail view. So this issue detail view is something once in your backlog, if you click on any of your issues, that may be a story, that may be a task or epic, it shows a details view on the right hand side that called issue detail view. So let's we have the attachment, subtask. If you are already have a Confluence page, you will be having this icon like that. Then all other options we have. Let's jump into Jira and find out how it looks like. So we'll go into our backlog view from where it will be better. So what I'll be doing is I'll select a project, and within that project, it's loading. So I will be selecting this team legends, that's the project that I have, and within that project I will be having multiple stories. This is what a project I have, and I am actually selecting this. If you click over here, you can see on the right hand side you have your issue detail view. You can jump into your any attachment that you have. You can click and add any attachment. You can go into the subtask view if you want to create a subtask. Let's see what are the options we have. We have different status. You can migrate or move from one status to another status directly from backlog. Primarily it's a good idea if you have a board, do it in a board, but you can still do it over here. You have the descriptions. From after that you have a section for acceptance criteria. This is by default not available. I have configured the Jira, added a custom field and added that custom field as a issue detail view. We'll learn that once we'll be configuring our Scrum board. Then I have the section for subtask, then whom it is assigned to, who created this one, that is reporter. Then labels, who are what the labels, if you want to add anything over here, that's the labels. Then story point, by default it will not there, I have added it. Priority will be there. Now there is few options, show more. If you click on show more, you can actually see epic link, components, print, fixed versions, those all are also coming under over here. We'll look into that, how those data are coming into. This is your issue detail view. If you want to jump into any other sections that we have attachment sections, we have a subtask sections, we have a link issue sections. So this is a link issue section, this is subtask sections. Once you have some link issues, you can add that link issues also. We'll talk about that, how we can do that, but this is the issue detail view that we are focusing on. The issue detail view may look little differently because this is a new interface of Jira. If I go into my settings and disable the Jira lab, and so it's saying another reasons I don't want to give the feedback right now. Once you will disable the Jira labs new view, and you can see the issue detail view may appear little differently than last time we actually observed. I am still comfortable with all of them. So it shows this is the old view where we have detailed sections of details, and then you have the description sections, then you have the comment sections, then you have attachment sections, subtask sections, and your development areas if you have any integrations development tools with your Jira. So, this is two different views, issue detail views of any stories that you are selecting. On the old view and the new view, just work with the view that you are comfortable with, but this is how we can actually navigate quickly within that. The good part is, if you are not satisfied with this view, some of the user stories you want to see it in a bigger screen, you can click on this particular link over here. So, if you look into this particular story in the backlog, that is TC33, if I click here, it's load the issue detail view, but if you want to go on a bigger screen, you can click on TC33 on this link. It will open the independent story in a bigger screen where you can actually look into what exactly it's written and how you can work on. I'll go back and we'll move to the next topic, that is the time logging, how we can log our time. If you don't have any tools installed, for example, there are multiple plugins, I am talking about plugins. If you have plugin installed, you will be having their time logging options, but you can access it from the same menu. If you have Tempo, or if you have AIO reports, or there are many other time logging plugins available for Jira, but if you don't have anything, you can actually click on any of these link and you can click on log work. If you are in old Jira, if you click on log work, it will bring up a pop-up where you will be spending how much time you have spent, and you will be, this is an old Jira. I am just talking about both the Jira. I will just switch to the new Jira quickly and we will see how it looks like. And if you want to mention the time when you actually spend, this is also important, that you need to mention, okay, for this date you are logging your hours. Then the remaining time, when you work on Agile or Jira, the most important, how much time you are logging is not important, how much remaining amount is there for any particular task or subtask or stories is more important. So, you need to set your remaining time by automatically, or you can leave estimate unset. So, it will be remain as it is. You can set it to certain amount. So, for an example, your estimate was 10 hours, you are spending 3 hours, automatically will change it to 7 hours as remaining, but if you set it to 8 hours by default, it will be showing you. Remember, whenever you are logging your hours in Jira, H or M you need to mention mandatorily, otherwise by default it will be taking as minute based on the default Jira settings. In Jira settings, you can set what will be the default unit of time. If you by default it is minute, if you change it to hours, it's good, otherwise it will all take it as minutes, and that is the default one. So, as a good practice, if you don't have admin rights to change it, or your administrator have not changed it early so far, you can add 8 hours or 8 minutes or 7 hours, 7 minutes, whatever you think is remaining. Or secondly, you can change it reduced by the amount of work. So, for an example, if you have 7 hours of estimate, you are spending 2 hours, but you want to reduce it by 5 hours. So, either way you can do, and you can actually give some work description, what exactly you have done on that time duration. This is optional, this is not mandatory. So, once you have spent the time, it will be logged for that particular day, and it will reduce from your estimate hours. This is the area where you will be logging your hours. There is one more area from where you can log hours. So, if you open this in a big window or independent screen, over here also you can actually click and log work, and the same screen will appear. This is where the same screen will appear. Only thing is, when you are editing your particular issues, at that point of time you will be working on the estimating it. So, if you see, we will able to see somewhere as remaining estimate or original estimate. If it is not there, then we need to enable it. By default it is not available. If I look into this, these are all the fields available in my screen, and that estimation is not there. So we'll look into that, why it is not there quickly. So you got an idea how you can log your hours, and once you have logged your hours, it will be visible on the time sheets or time reports if any plugins you are actually using. The looking into the logged hours in Jira, primarily it's not a good practice if you are following Agile. That's become going to a waterfall way. What we need to more focus on is looking into the remaining amount of works that is not done. Okay, but for understanding Jira, you should understand both the way how it works. Let's try to look into the same thing by changing it to a new Jira view, how it looks like. So I'll go into my personal settings and enable that Jira lab once again, and once it is done, I'll go back to backlog and we'll quickly look into how it's now looks like. So now the entire screen have changed on their layout. This edit button is no longer there, but you can still switch to screen specific old view directly from here, and you can log work from here. If you log work in a new view, it doesn't shows you much details. It says how much time spent, how much time is remaining, like this over here. If I go to the backlog, it's taking some time to open up, and if I click on any of the user story and click on this 3 dot log work, it will show me the same way. Now over here I don't have any details to mention, but that again is configurable with some plugins if you are using, but I still like the old view that have lots of options to do. For you, you know how to do that in old view and new view to log your hour. Now let's talk about the next topic. So this is how you will be doing it, log time. And so once you have your log time, let me just refresh. Sometimes you will be able to see a log time, and you can actually select log time and time remaining, no log time if the time tracking is enabled. And let's look into the next one, time logging. You can also do it from here, that log work. So all options are available from these 3 dots on your screen. You can actually go and log your work on a task level or story level. Primarily what I always advise or promote or advocate, that log your hours on the subtask level. It's always better to log the effort on the subtask level and the story points on story levels, but many mature teams, they still don't use subtasks. They are very comfortable with stories. It doesn't matter what you are using based on your organization standard, but in all the cases this is how you will be doing. So the screen currently you are looking into, this is an example taken for a subtask where I have taken a screenshot for how you can log your work. Now again, this is the from the old screen. If you are actually doing the old screen, you can set it up accordingly, that we already have talked about. There are a few other topics that we'll be talking about, we have discussed at the beginning. Let's look into that. So we talked about issue title view, we talked about time logging and tracking. Now we'll talk about marking impediments. Everyone understand what is impediment is. Now if we want to mark some impediments, how we can do that? Let's take couple of the stories in our back sprint, and I have just selected couple of the stories in my sprint by dragging this icon. And if you see, these 2 stories are marked as yellow, and there is a flagged because those are impeded, and other stories are not flagged. So if I start a sprint, for an example, I instead of plan a sprint, there is new thing they have came up where you can actually plan or updating your plan in Confluence directly from here, but I don't have a Confluence license and I'm not going to a Confluence right now. What I'll be doing is I'll start a sprint right now. So if you want to start a sprint, you will click on the start sprint, where we'll look into the start sprint little later. What you can do is you can right click, and there is options for flag. What I am trying to make you understand is how you can mark a story as impeded. So if I add a flag, it will ask me why you are flagging it, and I need to give a comment for that. I can say, okay, test environment is not available. I'm just giving any random points, and it says okay, this is now impeded. So this is how you will be marking your stories as impediment, and this is right now selected. If you select a impeded story, it will be coming like this. If you select a normal story, it will be just as show as a blue one. If you are having a active sprint right now, if I go into my active sprint, none of them are actually coming up here because the sprint is not started. What I will be doing is I will be adding this sprint just for your understanding. I'll click on the start sprint, and it's giving me okay, what's the sprint start date, end date, and these other do not have a values of the remaining field. That's okay. I am not bothering about that. I just want to have my stories on my board. So now you can see all the stories, those are flagged, are yellow in color. Now once the flag is removed, so you can actually remove the flag, right click and remove the flag from here, and that way you will be removing it from your, so you can give a comment okay, issue resolved, or whatever the problem resolutions you have, issue resolved, or blocker BLOCKE, blocker resolved, whatever the idea you have, you can add that. Now it will no longer show as your impediments. If you look into the history, you can click on that, and in the history sections you can see that someone marked it as a flagged, and then I have marked is I have removed the flag, and that way we are actually making it when it is impeded and when it is not impeded. Clear? Okay, we'll move to the next one where we'll talk about watcher. I believe everyone understand what exactly watcher is. If not, let me explain you what is watcher. So watcher is actually something, you can see it like this. This is a new view of Jira. So if you watch or start watching some of the stories or issue types, then you will get notifications of any changes happening to that user story. So sometimes your product owner or someone may be interested on watching some of the stories, or for an example, you have a cross-functional dependencies, your one story is depend on another story, and you have a link set up, that's fine, but you need to keep an eye on that user story as well. So you will start watching it. So you'll click on this, and you can see okay, this person is watching, and also I want to start watching it. So it will shows 2 person is watching these issues. Now if you click it on this particular link, it will open up in a new screen. As a whole screen will be talking about, instead of a pop-up screen, you can still do that watcher from here. That page is still loading, so you can do it over here. If you want to work with the old view, if you want to look into the old view of Jira, this is how the old view looks like, and over here there are few options you can see, and this is what you have. So if you have the watchers, you can stop watching or start watching. So I already have started watching on this one, so I can still do the stop watching. I'll just change this 24 number, that's my ticket number. If I go into 25 quickly from here, I can see it will show me start watching. So this is, I am no longer watching. So watching in the sense, you will start getting email notifications on your email ID, whatever is configured in Jira, in case of any changes happen. The benefit is, if you want to get the notifications of some changes of, if you are a product owner, you may be watching couple of your user story. If you are a developer, you want to watch some of the dependent story, or if you are a tester, you may be watching the development subtask. So that way, you, even if you are working in a team, you have some own work assigned to you, but you need to have an eye on the changes. You can do it from this particular area. Now this is the old view. If I remove this old issue view equal to false, then I'll be able to see the new view, and in new view you'll be looking into the same watch by an eye icon, right? So this is the eye icon that I have in this way, so I can actually watch it. So they have coming up with new changes. So this is something you can share with directly someone. That's not very important. I'll come into the commenting thread and mentioning. So in your new view or old view, in both the views, you can still add some comment. So you can comment. For an example, you add any discussion changes that you want to make. Instead of sending a mail, for an example, I want to send some information to one of my team members. I'll select @ it will show all the team members name, and I'll be selecting someone's name. Can you please look into the code? That person will instantly get an email notifications that this is the message came on these stories by this person. I am not saving this comment right now because that person will get the email, and that person may get panicked what happened. So this is how you will be commenting, and I will click on cancel here, and all the comment threads you will able to see it over this particular view. So whether you are an old view or new view, you will able to see all the comment sections in a pop-up box, or any activities that has happened. So if you are clicking on over here, you can, so earlier in the old view you used to have a issue detail view in your active sprint. Now in active sprint you don't have an issue detail view, you have this pop-up. In the pop-up you can actually able to see the time, how many logged, and you can still wants to log your time, you can log work from here, and this is how it's actually logged. This is where the link issues we have. We'll talk about how we can link issues and how we can create subtasks. But so far these are all the comments we have received. So we can see the comment thread, and if you do some activities flagged, this is the dependent story is not part of the sprint, this is one flagged, and this is the flagged is removed. So that way you have everything in the comment sections that you are adding a comment or Jira itself is adding a comment for you. Okay, so I believe you are now got an idea how you can add a comment. If you are in a backlog section and you want to add a comment that is not part of the active sprint, or even as the part of the active sprint you are looking for a backlog view, you can actually scroll down and you can see the comment section here, and you can add a quick comment directly over here as well. So there are multiple areas from where you can add comments. I'll talk about now activity log. So as we discussed, okay, this is all the comments we have, but you can still look into the activity or history. This is the work log. If you switch to work log, it shows who have logged how many hours on what date. This is all the histories that we have. So you can have all the histories made by everyone who is actually working or made what changes, all tracks you can actually get it from here. Now let's open this story in a bigger screen where you can actually visualize or look into more details in a better way. Now what I want to see is what their history is, how if you suddenly realized that okay, this is the change that happened that I have not done it, how come that happened, or I don't know how it has happened, you can get each and everything from their history. So if you come to the history sections, you can see all the details, who have made what change to what value. This is the old value, this is the new value, who have changed and what change, which date. So this is all the details we have for one single story, whatever the changes we have, who created or updated, which date. So we can actually browse through all of the details of their history. The same details you can look into an old view. If you are into an old view, the same details will come but with a little different representations. If I scroll down again in the activities, I have comments here, I have work log here, and I have history here. Let me just refresh this. Did I have still some issues? Yeah. So I can look into all the histories from the old view as well. So if you are working on an old view, you can do that. But anyway, you will be having all these details. This is history, and activity is something different, but in the new view they don't have something separately called activity. They have history, where you can actually find out. Here in the activity you can find person by person who have made what changes, and all the history and histories will be available here. So this is how you will be browsing through all your historical data and activity log. Now there is something issue linking. You have some dependencies and now you want to link your issues. This is old view, and in the old view I can see the workflow. That's how I quickly realized old view. Or also you can look into this particular URL where it says old issue view equal to true. So here in the old view, if you want to create link issues, if you can see, these are the two link issues I have. You can click on this plus sign and it says okay, your issues is clones or cloned by successor and predecessors is something that I have created as a customizations that we'll learn how to create during our Jira administration video. But for now you can say okay, this is actually blocked by the issue TC, for an example 200. So I'm just giving one ID. This is TC 200 that is blocked by, randomly I picked up. I click on link and I can see these issues actually have two different linking. One, these are added as a successors, but right now I have added as blocked by. And is Jira, it seems like it's struggling to refresh it. I'll help the Jira to get it refreshed by clicking on the refresh button. Okay, so now I can see there are two different kind of linking we have. One time we are saying is blocked by and successors. So this is something successors I had added in a Jira administration section, but you can still work with is blocked by if you can't change it in the administration section. The good part is if you look into this TC 200, right now my story is TC 30. And this one I am saying is linked with TC20 because it's blocked by TC20. If I open this TC20, I'll right click over here and open a new tab, you can see a similar linking is automatically created for that particular story as a linked issues that you are blocked this TC30. So this is already creates internally by both of them. So if you create it for one, it will create for both of them. Now this is your old view. Let me switch to a new view, how it looks like. So I just changed that URL with that old view is equal to true. Now it's very easy if your first link is created. So link issues, this is your old view, TC 60 and 34, and this is 200, this is successors, and this is blocked by. Now I'll go to some of the other stories. So for an example, if I go to 40 for an example where there is no dependencies already marked, there will be a challenge. You may not able to find out how you can do that. So this is even a subtask, and I don't have any plus button here, but I can see this is one link issues button is here. I'll click on the link issues and I can select okay, is actually a successor of TC 41 for an example. Yeah, so that way I'll be adding another sub linking. You can link with any types, any things within Jira, and similarly this is how now once your first link is appeared, I can click on this plus sign. So this is how you will be linking multiple issues. Now here you can say okay, this is actually a duplicates of TC 42 for an example. So this is TC 42. So I am just giving a random example. That way you will be linking issues. If you actually go to TC 41, it will show that TC 39 is the predecessors of 41. So that is automatically Jira creates for you. So it's still loading. You can see the predecessors is TC40, TC39 is there. So this is TC41, TC40 and TC31. Those are the related dependencies you have. So TC39, that is this is TC is something test they have created, that is the name. So don't get confused, the ID is TC40. So TC39 is the name, but the ID is TC40. So this is how we'll be linking one issues with another issues, and that way you will get a better visibilities on the cross-functional dependencies with their progress. The important thing that you remember, that all the dependent stories, it shows the status and who is working on it and what is their priority. So that's actually give you a feel that if you got blocked with some sets of user stories, what their progress is, whom to contact with if you want to. Okay, so issue linking, then explore issues in detail screen, that will be doing in a while, but let's open one of the issues. Let's do it right now. So this is one issues that we have. In the detail screen, we have most of all the informations that we have as a part of our screen. So this is our epic ID, this is our story ID. This is the summary of your issues and few button, attach, create subtask if you want to add attachment something. So once you will attach something, it will appear here, then you will again get that plus sign that we have just talked about. You want to create subtask, you can do that. You link issues, or there are some other operations if you want to associate with other apps. Primarily it will ask for whatever the license you have, mainly Confluence or something, that you can do it. This is a new view of our Jira, where we have the description, acceptance criteria, our total subtask progress, and what are the subtasks we have. Then link issues, what are the issues I have and they are linking. Then our activity log. On the right hand side, it shows the status, and if it is flagged, then it will show you, okay, this particular user story is currently impeded. Whom it is assigned to, you can assign it directly from here. Who have created it, you can select and change it if you have the rights. Label is groomed or not. This is a label sections where you can actually add any number of labels that you want to add, and we have added it for this particular example as groomed, so that we can identify the story is groomed or not. This is our story point. You can change or remove your story points from here. This is coming as the right hand side. This is talking about the epic, which epic it is coming from. I know this is TC5, where it says operations and service of all channel, and this is the epic link. Epic link and epic name are two different things. Just you need to remember that this is what it is showing, the epic name, and see, this is the epic name, operations and service for all channels, and the link is something that appears as a part of your child. Is it part of your sprint? Yes, this is right now part of sprint 2, and it's actually had spent on sprint 1 as well. So that way that's what it is showing, that +1 sprint also it has. So it's also have one completed sprint and one current sprint. It talk about which sprint it have worked. So it was carried over from the previous sprint, and the priority is highest. You can change the priority to any other priority that you want to. And there are some other options if you want to look into the original estimate, if there was any estimate for this one. Time tracking, if I click on over here, it will again bring that up. I know how to log that. Then if there is something component, we'll talk about in a while, and the fixed versions, this appears here if we have associated with. Now there are some other options. We talked about this watchers. You have few more options. You can log work, remove flag directly from here. You can do a single update, move to other projects. So if I click on move, if you have the admin rights, you can actually move it to, it will actually go to that same screen, that if you remember from the previous screen, if you want to move it to different project or different issue types, you can do that. So that's what moving is. I'm not repeating that in the previous video or the next video. I'm not sure how the sequence is. If you look into the issue details on bulk update, the bulk update one, you will able to find out how we are moving these issues from one issue types to another issue types, or one project to another project. Now I'll just go back to the previous one where I'll be exploring few more options from those three dots. So if I click over here, I'll be see, clone is something you will be making a copy of this one. So if I want to make a clone, I'll click on clone, and it will just make a copy of the same stories with a different number, and it will be showing what will be the name you want to do. Just to identify, I'll just make it as clone. Then it asks you clone the subtask. You want to clone the subtask, you want to clone the links, you want to clone the sprint values, and if you do that, it will just make a replica and show you this is your new story created. So this is your 303 is actually created, and you may see linking of that also. So if you see link issues is cloned from TC30 is already created. So this is a clone of TC30. So that way you will be able to clone multiple stories, and later if you want to remove this particular area, you can just close this, the link will be removed. Let's look into some other delete. If you want to delete, you may not have access to delete or permissions to delete user stories, but if you have, you can delete it from here also. You can delete it from bulk update as well. I'm not deleting this one, but you know how to delete it now. Show me the highlights. So there is some things. This is if you want to know about this Jira, how it works, it's actually tutorial for you. It's not showing you the data. So I'm just cancelling it. This is your how you will be able to navigate within this, and configure is this is a default screen, your issue detail screen. How you will be configuring it, we'll learn that during our administration section, but this is how you can navigate it to that particular screen as well. Okay, so this is how you have overall screens in your Jira. Let's quickly look into the same screen on your old view, how it looks like. So in your old view, this all informations is there, but it has a different layout with different options, but all the informations we observed there are already present over here. It also have some additional buttons, like if you want to click on edit, if you jump into comments, if you assign it to someone, you can do it from here. This is the start analysis is your next workflow state. I just quickly give you why it is start analysis coming up, because in your workflow your analysis is here, and right now it is to do. The transitions name is start analysis. We'll go into these details later, how to prepare this kind of workflow and assign with your projects, but right now this is in to do state. So the next step is start analysis. If I click on start analysis, you can see this button will also change based on the workflow. Now in my workflow, from analysis state, I can go into these three different states. So I have three different buttons: start design, assign external design, start development. So I have three different buttons. This is on old view you have, but in the new view it's actually represented in a different way. So let's look into the new view. Rest everything is looks quite similar. Ouch, I changed something else. Okay, let's open something else on this one. I don't know, that was 303, right? So this 303, if you click over here, this is you can do it from this particular area. You can switch to any other states. So this is how you have details areas of your Jira. Few areas that you may want to look into. This is wiki style editor in the descriptions, and you can actually add bold, italic, underline. In the acceptance criteria also you can actually have that that is renderer style, how you want to have the renderer, whether you want to have this wiki style renderer or a basic renderer without any formatting options, that we can still configure. Acceptance criteria is coming here because I have configured as a customization for the Jira. That's why it's coming up here. Now this is all the issues in details we have explored. We'll go to our last screen where we actually have talked about few of the areas: story point estimations and moving stories to and from sprint, that we'll talk about. So story point estimation, if you already have the story point configured, it will come up here as your screen by default. If it not come, we'll talk about in another video how we can administer to create a custom field story points, assign with your field configurations, then map with your current board or screens, how it appears. But this is where we'll be doing it. What by default is available that we always need to do before starting a new sprint. Let's go into the backlog, and over here we'll do couple of the areas to understand how we can move stories into our sprint. So we already started one sprint, that is my active sprint, but I can still make a bucket for the future sprint. So this is my future sprint. Right now one sprint is completed, that is TC sprint 1. Current sprint is TC sprint 2, and my future sprint is TC sprint 3, that I can still move stories into them. So there is one way I can move by dragging and dropping to the sprint. The another way I can move this particular line up to the stories that I want to keep. So that's why I'm just moving it to the sprint. I know how to start the sprint because there was a button to start the sprint. Here this is disabled because my one active sprint is already running. So you can run only one sprint at a time based on the current configurations or the default configuration. If you want to start the sprint, you need to complete this sprint first, because at a time in Jira within one project only one active sprint can be active. Now something what happened is many people says, okay, I have big backlog and something I found, okay, specialty CD profile, this one is my top priority and I want to move it to my sprint, but dragging from here to there is actually complicated. So what I say is, okay, don't drag it from there, just right click and move it to top of the backlog. So you can move and top of the backlog. So once you will move and top of the backlog, it's over here, then you can actually drag and drop it here. So I'll drag and drop it. Oops. Yeah. So then I can actually do the ranking within the sprint. That's way you will be moving your sprints. Now secondly, this is one story, and this story I want to move it to sprint. As we discussed on our filter screen, you can change the sprint directly from here also if you have that option. So let's see if I have the option. Yes, I have the option. I will select TC sprint 3. Now you can see this will automatically move there. So there are multiple ways of moving those stories. So the TC34 is somewhere in my sprint right now. So there are many ways of moving the sprint stories into the sprint. Now the thing is, once you are done, you will be planning the sprint or start the sprints. Planning sprint will be something different, that you may be doing something outside your Jira or in Confluence, but once your sprint planning is done, you will be moving them to your sprint, and once you are ready to start the sprint, you will create the sprint and give your sprint goal. So when you start your sprint, this is where I had clicked, and this is where you will be able to edit the sprint. If you edit the sprint, you can give your sprint goal over here. This also appear the same pop-up when you start the sprint. So you can edit your sprint, you can give the sprint goal, but this is not a very good practice to change the dates once you have started. Let's stick to the dates so that you will be able to follow the agility or follow the scrum ways of working, and rely on the measurements or the metrics that's it's coming to. Okay. So this is how the story point estimation, moving stories to and from sprint, we talked about. You can actually do a reverse way. So if you want to move out from this, you can do that. But if you do it from an active sprint, if you move something, this is your active sprint, this is your inactive sprint. If I am moving an active story to inactive sprint, it will give you a pop-up that sprint scope will be affected by this. So that's creating that you are changing the scope of the sprint, and the pop-up is coming here because it's not a good practice to change the scope of a sprint once the sprint is started. So I say okay, I'll confirm it. So now you can see that actually moved to the next sprint, or you can move it similarly to the backlog. So now that pop-up will not come because this is not my part of active sprint. Okay, so multiple sprint. If you really want to do a multiple sprint, there are options that you can do is configuring something on the Jira that we are not doing. But for an example, your there is only one project, but if you want to says okay, there are two physical team, they will be working on one project. You have just gave them some name, team A and team B, and you want to run two parallel sprint for them. How we can do that? So to do that, what we need to do is we need to create a filter for both the teams. So what I'll be doing is, so over here let's assume I am starting one I'm giving them label as nothing. So I think they have just label as groomed, but I am giving these stories for an example a different label. So where is the label? This is label. I'm just giving team A for an example. I'm just you can still do that bulk update, but for you I'm just doing it quickly over here. Okay, so I have just updated few of the stories as team A. So what I'll be doing is I'll be creating another board with a little change in filter. So what I'll be doing, I'll create a board. We'll talk about that in details when we'll be talking about board or Scrum board. So I am just creating a Scrum board from an existing project, and I'm giving team A board just for your this example, and I'll select it from this team and I'll create the board. What I'll be doing, the first thing, I'll change the filter of the board just to take so right now if you have two different board, you can actually this board have one active sprint because the stories have one of the sprints part of one of the active sprint. I need to eliminate them from this particular project because I want only the stories from team A. So what I'll be doing, I'll go to the board settings and I'll click on edit filter query. And in the edit filter query, what I will be able to get is just have a quick look. I'll edit it and labels in, this is what I am just adding as a label, and let is come team A. I want the stories that belongs to team A should appear. Once it will show me the 4 stories, I'll save it, and none of the stories is part of any of the sprint right now. I'll go back to my board now quickly. So this is now what we are doing is we have one project, 2 different board with different data sets. Now if I go back to my board, I can start the sprint now, because for this particular board there is no active sprint. All the stories belong to active sprint, is none of them are here. So I can start the sprint under this board. I can give it a name, team A sprint 1. I can give the start date, end date, sprint goal, and start it. Now within one project we are having multiple active sprint. This is, you can still configure the board once you will learn how to configure this board, but now just are you able to relate it that last time we had one project, one board, and it was not allowing me to create a new sprint. To do that, we first realized what is the need of creating 2 sprint, because there are 2 teams on the same project. So we created a separate board with different filter criteria, where I have says all these stories should belongs to one team from that label. If it is a very strong practice, you can create a custom field within your project, and in the custom fields you can have list of all the teams, so you can have multiple sprints under one project, manage their backlog very easily. So you can see their backlog looks like this. Okay, so this is how we can do a multiple projects, or multiple sprint within one project. Now let's try to understand task breakdown and assign and estimations. Once you have the stories, you may before planning you may need to create subtask. How you will be creating the subtask? If you click on this particular icon in your new view, you will come to this particular area. You can create subtasks. The sprint defects is something that I had created separately for some different purpose as a subtask label to capture the sprints defects within our sprint area instead of creating a bug. But in the subtask, for an example, I have created the VLOP. This is a quick one. I can create it from here. Development, testing. I can quickly create subtask over here. If you want to change some values of the subtask, you can click on the subtask, and over here you can actually create your whom it is assigned to, or what's their issues, then what are the informations you want to add as a subtask. But again, if I wants to go into this user stories in a detail view, this is user story 34. I'll click on this 34 and open it in a new window. Within the 34 screen, I can see all the subtasks right now will be listed out here, but this particular view is better when I am actually working on a old view. So I'll show you why. Right now, if I want to add a subtask, I'll be able to add subtask directly from here. For an example, analysis, and if I want to change it, I'll click on it, and then it will take me to another screen where I will be looking into assignee. For an example, I will assign to someone else, then I will be estimating some areas that is actually not coming. I am not sure where I will be doing it, so I always prefer to go to the old view, and Jira is still working on this one. And over here I will actually click on edit, and over here I will try to find out if I have that time estimations or not. So if I don't have the time estimations, as a admin you can ask your admin to enable that. There is a good options to find out if you have that field or not. So what I'll be doing is try to find out whether that is there or not. To enable the time estimations and remaining, the field name is time tracking. So if I'll look into the time tracking, sometimes Jira will work, sometimes Jira doesn't work when I search. Let's see. No, it's not working. I'll again try that. Where is that? I'll click on edit and I'll go to configure fields. I'll click on where is my field. I'll search time tracking. This is what the admin will do. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to just estimate the remaining and assign it to someone. So you can actually click on edit. I think Jira sometimes goes little weird. Right now it's facing some issues for doing to open up that. So here I will be having the field for remaining estimate and uh, original estimate. That two field I want. For that there is some administrative actions required at the beginning to add it as a part of the screen. So what I will be doing is I will just do the admin sections quickly, that I will be covering details in some of the other videos, but I am not explaining it in details what exactly I am doing. That is not enabled. So what I am trying to do is I am trying to find out the screens that is using, and once I'll reach to the screen, we'll cover all the details administrations in a different video, but this is the default screen it is using, and if I want to make some changes, I need to make some changes on that particular scheme, and within that scheme, this is the screen. In this screen I'll be adding the time tracking field that is not right now part of the scheme. So I know this will be little complex at this point of time, but let's not try to understand this right now. I'll be adding time tracking now over here, and this is time tracking I have added. Once I have added, I can go back and refresh this page to look into that. How I actually reach there, don't try to understand this point of time. We'll be having detailed video on the screens later. So now if I click on edit, it's taking some time to open it up. This is an old view, but I believe it will show me the remaining estimate and original estimate for the subtask right now. So if I scroll down, I can see this is original estimate. What is my original estimate? I says I originally estimated 4 hours. At the beginning, I still need 4 hours right now. Okay, so this is what I have estimated. Now this is a part of my user stories. This is a subtask, and this is TC34 is the user story. If I click on the user story, I can see this is the subtask at what level. Where are the subtask? This subtask is this is the old view. Why I am saying the old view I prefer? Because it shows the subtask, what's the current state, whom it is assigned to, and the estimates. So if you want to assign it to someone, you can click on the subtask label right here and assign to someone, or assign it to yourself by clicking on assign to me. If you know someone, you can click on their name and you can actually assign to someone. So I am not assigning it to anyone because they will get email notifications, but you can assign it to yourself. So if I click and assign it to me, you can see it will assign, because I have logged in with the ID called Agile Digest. It is assigned to me. Now again, okay, so that's fine. I don't want to view that. Now there are some other options you can still explore. You can assign, comment, log work. You can log work directly from here, and you can open it in. So all these possible options of a subtask is actually here. Why it is showing it start? Because that is the next step from to do. From to do, if you click on start, it will go to the in progress. So if you can see, it will change the status to in progress now, because I have started. And similarly, if you open at the very beginning when you are creating subtask, it's very important that you click on edit and add the remaining and original estimate at that point of time. Let's assume you are not on the old view, because this is what I am looking into, a old view. But if I am actually new view, these buttons will not be there. How we will be creating a subtask there? So for an example, this is one of the stories, and if I click on subtask, I can create it here. But if I open the story and want to create a subtask inside the story from a new view, let's do that. I can create subtask directly from here, and I am saying this is development. This is a development is one of the subtasks. Let's create this subtask, and it's why I am saying it's not showing whom it is assigned to and estimated or not estimated. That's why I don't like the new view for the subtask right now. But within a subtask view, I can actually look for the original estimate and remaining estimates from here. This is the original estimate, where I can add original estimate is 5 hours, and it will automatically take the remaining one. I can track my hours from here. So this is 5 hours remaining. You can see I have estimated original estimate, but it still have 5 hours remaining, because remaining it's automatically update, and that's way you can do it from your old one, the new screen. So this is how you will be able to log your work, your task breakdown will assign an estimate. Over here also you can assign it. If this is your subtask, how we reach to a subtask, you can look into this icon. This icon says it's a subtask icon. You can hover over to get it the details as well. Now once you are in active sprint, how will be if you have multiple sprints, how you will be switching from them? You can actually switch from this is another board. I think team A board, I have named them the new one. The previous one was TC board, where I had one of the active sprint. How you will be referring your burn down chart for this active sprint? You can click on the reports, and from the reports you can select the burn down chart. Now in the burn down chart, the problem of the burn down chart is if you need to give the measures on your x-axis, how it will be measuring it from. So if you give a story points as a measurement, this is how 20 story points you have committed. If you want to do it for remaining amount of work, so remaining time estimates, you need to select one. But as we have not estimated any of the subtasks when we started the sprint, it's showing 0. So that's way it's if I actually switch to a different board, the new board that we have created, we estimated 5-6 hours. I think that you will able to get reflected within your burn down chart. So let's quickly look into that burn down chart. For the team A, yeah, this is the team A's burn down chart. And if I actually switch to okay, this is very important, that on the earlier project we were able to see that remaining time estimate was there, but for this one the remaining time estimate is not coming. It's only showing the story points. How I can get that? That's actually come from the board configuration. So if I go into the board configuration and you click into the estimation statistics is time tracking is disabled. I'll enable it and I'll go back to my board. Now the remaining time estimate is appeared. I can select story points, or I can select the remaining time estimate as well. So this is how you will be referring your time burn down chart from different board. And this burn down chart here, you can have options, this gray area, how you have configured your holidays, that is also configurable from your board setting. So in your, that will be covering in details when we'll be talking about Scrum board configuration. So working days, I have marked Saturday and Sunday is not my working day. So based on that, in the burn down it shows 2 bars in Saturdays and Sundays. So what you can do, if you don't want that, there is a checkbox on the right side, you can uncheck that. It will not show your burn down that area. As of now, we just have started the sprint, so there is no actual lines. Once you will start working after one day, it will start showing the actual lines accordingly. It also shows all the stories currently part of this sprint with how they have started. So this is just today the sprint have started. If I select some previous sprint, so this is one sprint. If I select the previous board, we actually have completed one sprint, I believe, and from there you can get a better burn down of the previous sprint. So on the previous sprint, I have just selected a previous sprint. I'll go to the report and burn down chart. I'll select instead of the current sprint. Always you look into the burn down for the current sprint, because whatever the sprint you already have covered, it doesn't make sense you go there. But if I switch to sprint 1, I think we had a burn down that is already covered, and if I am in sprint 2, that is just started. So I can switch between all these sprints from one project to another project. So this is my TC board, but there is another board I had created for that particular sprint just to look into the subtask, not for stories. The same, the filter one. And over here I don't have any backlog because I have filtered it only for subtask. But I'll be having a burn down, better burn down, where all the efforts were estimated with hours and the burn down is tracked. So let's look into the burn down for this particular sprint. So this is team A sprint 1. I'll go to TC sprint 1, where I had a very good reasonable way of burn down. This is what I am actually looking for, and it gives me the details of all these area, when what changes has happened, to trace this burn down chart. I believe everyone, you understand what is burn down chart. This is what we are trying to see, how you can get the burn down chart within Jira. The next topic what we'll be talking about, priority and ranking. Monitor burn down chart we already talked about. Task breakdown, assignation and estimations we talked about. The priority and ranking in your backlog. Let's go back to your backlog. So I'll go to your current sprint, that is TC board, your current backlog. Priority, there are multiple ways of doing prioritizations. For an example, Moscow, affinity analysis, ranking, Cano analysis, WSJF, multiple ways of doing priorities. So for stories, it's okay if we can do it in two ways. One is your affinity analysis, through which you can select the priority, high, low, medium and highest, and it shows up here. If I click it low, this icon will be changing to green down. If I put it highest, it will be changing it to highest, but it will not change the rank based on whatever you are selecting. The rank is an internal priority that you select by drag and drop and position it in your backlog. So whatever you have ranked high, so for an example, you are browsing through your backlog and realized, okay, this is something is very important and you want to move it to top of your backlog. So you will click on top of your backlog, and that way you will be able to do that. Remember one thing, this particular drag and drop to change the ranking is very important, because if you have 5 highest priority story, your team is capable to work on 3 highest priority story. Which 3 highest priority story they will pick? For that you need to have the ranking always enabled. In some cases, if you are changing your filter of your Scrum board right over here, if you look into the board, it's always order by rank AC. If you remove this, Jira will not be allow you to make the ranking. If your filter doesn't have the order by rank written in the filter query at the end, you will not be able to do the ranking drag and drop within your backlog. So I believe so far you got all the ideas on a basic way of operating Jira within your current project, within multiple sprint or multiple boards, how you can work on. And I believe the next topic, that is user profile. This is where the user profile is. If you click on the user profile, you can change that. We multiple time we have did that to change into different views, but again you can click on profile, just change your pictures or something that you wants to change. And you want to change your picture, your job title, what you have worked on, and who you work with, all the details it comes. You can give some of your details, your job title, your department. That's very simple, but that's actually not the primary area what we are intended to learn here. What I am trying to make a tutorial over here to make you understand the details how Jira works or how you can work on Jira. I believe that we have delivered the scope that we have planned for. Okay, thank you everyone. Thanks for connecting. We'll come up with our new video or with some other interesting topics within Jira or outside Jira within Agile space. Thank you all for connecting. Stay tuned. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.